10 to 15% of children with disabilities in any population.
Any population?
Yeah, any population.
That includes Sri Lanka as an average?
Yes, and they say about 98% of these children live in low-middle income countries.
Mm-hmm. And what's the uptake of patients through the private hospitals in Sri Lanka vis-a-vis the national or the health service?
So depending on different boroughs, there are different systems that they are doing.
You mentioned the word ATI. What does ATI mean?
ATI in Sanskrit means hope.
Hope. Professor Samanmali Sumanasena joins me today on Connect with Rohan from Ideal Island Studios here in London. Samanmali is a professor in Pediatric Disabilities at the Faculty of Medicine, University of Kelaniya in Ragama. She's currently on a sabbatical in the United Kingdom, working as a consultant in developmental pediatrics at the Harrow County Pediatric Care in London. Welcome, Samanmali, to this program.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you for inviting me to be part of it.
It's a pleasure having you on board. So, pediatrics, you're a professor, but you're also primarily a medical doctor, gone on to become a professor. Pediatric care and disabilities, I think that's the topic we would like to talk about and disseminate to our viewers. Both in the UK, Sri Lanka, and also in other countries as well, Samanmali. Before we get there, let's talk about your personal stage from birth to medical school. Walk us through. Where were you born, etc.?
I was actually born in Kurunegala because my parents were teachers and they were traveling. But I was brought up entirely at Nugegoda in Sri Lanka, and I'm proud to say that I'm an Anulian throughout my school career. And then I entered Faculty of Medicine, Colombo. So I'm a graduate from Faculty of Medicine, Colombo. And my first career was also as a lecturer and a senior lecturer at Faculty of Medicine, Colombo. But my passion was always in children with disabilities. So after completing my training to become a consultant pediatrician, I moved to Ragama because they specifically invited me to be part of a department called Department of Disability Studies. So that is a unique department which is at Faculty of Medicine Ragama in the entire country and even in South Asia. That is a very unique department where we are developing speech and language therapists, audiologists, and since very recent occupational therapist as well. So they are allied health professionals being trained in medical school.
So this is the full spectrum or the full range of care, and you're teaching or training people to go out into Sri Lanka and be of service.
Yes. So I'm actually, because it's a medical faculty, I'm teaching medical students as well as speech and language therapy, audiology, and occupational therapy students. There are more in the team to look after children with disabilities, but these are some of the very important specialities that need to come together.
So as a country with the health service, etc., now you're based in Ragama, I'm going to say Colombo-centric. We have other provinces, etc. How does the pediatric and care and disability care services spread out to the rest of the country? What's the system or the infrastructure?
Thank you for that question. I would like to talk a little bit of evolution of these services in Sri Lanka. So I think College of Pediatricians, the professional organization, always identified the need to develop services for children with disabilities. But as you know, the acute care is always considered more important. And when a country develops to a certain level only, they will look at the more chronic and morbid conditions such as old age treatment and disabilities. So I think over the last 2 decades, we have come a long way with this service development. So what has happened is, so for the last approximately 10 years, we have started developing specialist doctors, subspecialty in pediatrics, where they are dedicated to serve children with developmental and neurodevelopmental conditions which lead to disabilities. Also, looking at any country, majority of children with disabilities arise due to birth-related complications. So now if you look at the evolution of health services in any country globally, the neonatal care, the perinatal care, the pregnancy, antenatal care, all those have improved now in Sri Lanka, which shows that more children who would otherwise not have survived are now surviving, which means we will have more children with neurodevelopmental disabilities in the future. So this rise we have seen in Sri Lanka as well, because our care for the newborn has really improved.
Improved.
Yes.
Vastly.
Yes.
So arising from that, what's the sort of percentage where there are amongst the children who for the need rather for pediatric disability care?
Yeah, so they approximately, it is estimated by the World Health Organization that there are about 10 to 15% of children with disabilities in any population.
Any population?
Yeah, any population.
That includes Sri Lanka as an average?
Yes,
yeah.
And they say about 98% of these children live in low-middle income countries. And they do not have access for proper services. So if the same question that you asked previously. So if you ask about Sri Lanka and the distribution of services, so we do have this subspecialty called developmental pediatrics, which is known as community pediatrics commonly. These doctors have been trained, but we do have a substantial need. There is a huge gap. And we also have therapists like physiotherapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists. We even have psychologists now. We have developed these subspecialties, but distribution is very town-centric. So majority of major hospitals, teaching hospitals do have some services developed. We also have other subspecialties in medicine like child psychiatrist, pediatric neurologist coming in, but dedicated, organized care is not available.
And what's the uptake of patients through the private hospitals in Sri Lanka vis-a-vis the national or the health service?
Very minimal. One thing is because it's very costly.
Right.
And also this speciality requires a lot of time. It is time consuming and it is multidisciplinary. So the expenses are huge for families if they're seeking only private sector. So it's very less attractive.
Now in the UK, as you know, Samanmali, you're a consultant at the Harrow County Hospital in London. There are waiting lists in the UK National Health Service. From the point of entering the system to the point of receiving it, sometimes it can be months, not weeks, perhaps even a year, 18 months, depends on the area of speciality. When you compare the UK's health service queues, what is it like in Sri Lanka?
Interesting question. So it's like this. So depending on different boroughs, there are different systems that they are doing. So different trusts.
So just to clarify, Samanmali mentioned in the UK boroughs, that is like the councils,
Yes.
municipal and urban councils in Sri Lanka.
Yes, like the local authorities.
Local authorities, yeah.
So different trusts have different policies. So it could be anything from 12 weeks to about 70 to 80 weeks of wait time.
Right.
Yes,
so a long wait.
Yes, it's a long wait, and sadly also that will miss the most important thing in child development that we talk of. We talk of something called neural plasticity in children, and we talk of a concept called first 1,000 days, the golden period of a child's life, where children learn all the new skills. So the brain is developing, and we have to match the services to the developing brain. So brain can learn new skills even if there is a concern with the development of the brain. So when we miss that time period, it's very difficult for us to teach children new skills.
I want you to repeat that because we are a knowledge sharing forum here. So the first 1,000 days is the golden period for the child to get into the brain, or whatever, my language, you can say it in a more professional, elegant way, for the child's development. Is that right?
Yes. So, for example, even if any baby who is born to any kind of adverse circumstances, they have the possibility of learning new skills, brain to repair and to regrow. You know, the brain cells will not, if you damage a brain cell, it cannot regrow. But brain can learn new ways because there are a lot of nerve cells in the brain. So this is called neural plasticity. The technical term is neuroplasticity, which means there's a plasticity for your brain to learn things.
In my mind, it's elasticity, but that's the right word.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
plasticity.
yes,
right.
yes.
So it's stretchable.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So if we give the proper environment for the child,
Yeah.
even if they have been exposed to adverse situations, they can rewire. The brain can make new pathways. So we have to give this opportunity in the best in the first 1,000 days.
Right.
So if we delay this, then there is likely to be adverse circumstances for the future.
In the medium to long term,
Yes.
for the child's life, during
Yes,
his
yes.
lifetime. Right. Now, in Sri Lanka, what's the involvement of the private sector with this type of teaching hospitals, and also train the doctors, so to speak, or send them out to the provinces? Has there been sort of a government-led or a voluntary-based approach to joint ventures or working together?
Yeah, so in Sri Lanka, the main service sector, as in the UK, is public sector.
Yes.
Right?
Which is the health department.
Yes,
health
yes,
service.
yeah, Ministry of Health.
Right.
And services are given through this, and doctors have to go on a rotational basis to their respective stations. So I'm different because I belong to the university system, that is the higher education system, but within the university system also we provide clinical services. So when you ask about the private sector, I think with regard to child disability services, private sector is doing a huge, taking a huge responsibility and doing a huge service. For example, the center that I am working at the moment at the Ragama Medical Faculty, which is known as the ATI National Center for Children with Disabilities, it was entirely built by a combination of private corporate sectors coming together.
Donors coming
Yes.
through, together.
Yes.
Right. You mentioned the word ayati. What does ayati mean?
Ayati in Sanskrit means hope.
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 I see. So, explain, perhaps, give us a little bit more detail about ayati, what it does. I know you mentioned it's in Ragama.
Yes.
But how do children benefit from it and so on?
Yeah, so ATI is a center which was primarily built to train speech and language therapist, audiologists, and medical students in child disability. So it was brought about primarily by HEMA's company and MAS.
MAS Holdings.
MAS Holdings, yes. They
So
together.
these are two private sector companies coming together to set the institution up.
Yes, together with a lot of other private donors, which is a long list.
Of course.
And so they all came together with the Sri Lankan Army, and within the premises of the university, we built this center in a 5,000 square feet square meter building in a 5-acre land.
So that's a fairly big building, 5,000 square meters.
Yes.
And the Army's involvement was in providing the labor and the infrastructure work?
Yes, providing the labor and infrastructure.
So it's a good confluence of sectors.
Yes.
The private sector, the Ministry of Health, your involvement from the university, and then of course the armed forces and so on. So that's really good to hear. So how long has IIT been around now?
So IIT was built in 2000, completed in 2020 and handed over to the university.
Right. So how does the funding work?
So the services are provided by the government sector, so the Ministry of Health and the university. And IIT is maintained by the IIT Trust, which is again a combination of private sector and the government sector officials. And we are getting funding for the maintenance and for the administration through the trust, and we are depending on the donors.
So if there are any private donors or business donors watching this program, are they free to make donations into the IIT Trust?
Yes, we would really welcome, because it is difficult to sometimes maintain certain services because of that, yeah.
And for example, the salaries, wages, etc. of the staff, are they maintained by their employers or from the IIT itself?
No, from the Ministry of Health and from the University of Kelaniya, but also the administration staff is through the Board of Trustees.
Right.
Yes.
So there is a good sort of a commingling of parties.
Yes, it's a super model.
Super model.
Yes.
Do you not think that it should be replicated in other places then?
It should be, but it's a large responsibility for the Board of Trustees to carry on. But at the same time, there are also other companies coming forward, like there's another business entity called CDB, Citizens Development Business PLC. Yes. Yeah. So they have contributed towards developing several other centers. There's a center that was developed in Gaul called Pragati, together with the university and the Ministry of Health again at the Karapitiya Hospital. So similar center is also developed in Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital. And I know that there are other universities and the Ministry of Health officials looking at developing centers in Ratnapura Hospital, Jaffna, and at the moment there's one at Kandy as well. Similarly, there's another one that is functioning at Batikalo and Kalutara, and also one at Kurunagala Teaching Hospital. Yes.
No, that's really good to hear, Samanmali, the progress made and the progress going forward as well. That's very important, because most of our projects in Sri Lanka, once we do something, we stop and take a rest. But we forget that it's an ongoing process. Traction is more important than sort of looking at the completed project. That's why I asked you about
sustainability.
Sustainability, all of that, and also, most importantly, manpower and financial to provide these services. That's why I wanted to touch base with you on these. Now, you studied in Sri Lanka. You perhaps had some exposure in London before your current sabbatical. So you're exposed to the UK as well as Sri Lanka. And if you have been to other countries on a professional basis, we would like to know. Looking back from your cross-country or cross-functional experience in 2 or 3 different systems, health systems, where do you rate the Sri Lankan system? It's a very sensitive question. I mean, I don't want you to say it's bad or it's the best, because either of those will be wrong, but give us an honest answer in comparison to other systems that you have encountered.
Yeah, I would really like to say, and I'm very humbled to say this, as a country and as a system, we are showing a very good progress. We are in the correct pathway. I have also, my primary training in addition to the primary training in UK, where I learned about child development, I think it was reinforced because I got the opportunity to do a fellowship in USA. In USA and Australia, are well advanced than the UK system with regard to child development, neurodisability. So in Sri Lanka, we have made a huge progress over the last 10 years, I would say. And the Ministry of Health has taken a lot of steps to ensure that we are in the correct pathway, like to develop centers even in a small scale, in majority of districts, and we are ahead of the UK with
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka
Okay.
is ahead of UK with regard to early intervention services.
Right.
We have excellent early intervention services, and we have developed guidelines. In 2023, we published guidelines for the entire Ministry of Health. We have a super community system in Sri Lanka, the public health system,
Yes.
where the midwives would go home, look at children, look at parents. And so through this system, we have managed to identify children early and refer them to the services.
So just to interrupt you there, Samanmali, the midwives, do they actually report when they see early signs of child lack of development or whatever?
Yes. So we have managed to do the training of all the midwives in Sri Lanka, and this is happening very well in certain districts. Like, for example, Colombo, Gampaha, Kandy, certain districts we have taken over the other districts, but it is also happening in all the districts. So early detection, early intervention part is happening really well in Sri Lanka.
That's proactive.
It's very proactive, and we have the guidelines. We have published written guidelines. It's all available in the web, in the Family Health Bureau website. So then all specialists and all healthcare providers are being well educated about child development disability. So working in the UK, I see that our therapists are very much more skilled. So they are really skilled. But what we don't have is, as you said, equity. It is not equal everywhere in the country. But we are in the proper path, I would say.
I'm very pleased to hear that, because it's always a question, Sri Lanka catching up with the rest of the world. That's been the general trend. But here we are at the forefront, leading. And that's important. Now, you mentioned about the United States and Australia far more developed ahead of the United Kingdom, while Sri Lanka is leading in its own way. What are your experiences during your fellowship that you had some years back in the American system?
The American system is very proactive, again, and their multidisciplinary care, the way they come together, which was earlier seen in the UK, but with a lot of differences in the NHS, things
Financial
have changed.
strain, yeah.
Yes, financial strains. Things have changed, but we have preserved that multidisciplinary care in Sri Lanka as well. So that multidisciplinary care, being proactive, taking action for children, like, so for example, in Sri Lanka, in our center, if children can't talk, we have a specialist laboratory where we have donated tabs, devices, which we have designed our own Sri Lankan Sinhala and Tamil. So we have expert speech and language therapist programs where children are helped to communicate through the alternative augmentative communication techniques. Now, in the UK, children are not given this. They are just allowed not to stay without, they are allowed to stay without communication. These are the systems that we have borrowed from the US. Yes.
I think it's important to get the best systems, not just stick to one particular country. What's best for Sri Lanka is the most important thing, and it shouldn't have any copyrights and rules where we get it from, whether it's the US, UK, Australia, Japan, and other Asian countries as well. So I think having an open mind is the way forward for Sri Lanka in a period of change. Before we conclude our program, I would give you the freedom to add anything else that you want to disseminate by way of information, knowledge, and so on?
Yeah, there's so much to tell, but
yeah.
I would say in Sri Lanka we have really well developed centers, a few of them, and we are struggling to meet the demands of the system, the present system available, and I'm sure there are a lot of international viewers of this program, and I would recommend everybody to look for any changes in their children, in their babies, early in life, and there are a lot of websites, lot of programs in your own countries to detect these children early, to find out if there's anything different in your child's development. Please seek help from your own context, wherever you are living, and try to get into the system and get the support as early as possible. I think all over there are Sri Lankan children and we want the best for them. And the other important message is these neurodevelopmental conditions don't have a cure. So don't go looking for cures. There are a lot of places that give wrong information that you can treat and cure these conditions. No, detect early, teach the skills to your children, and you can go a long way.
Thank you, Professor Samanmali Sumanasena. Thanks for sharing that knowledge, information, and also devoting the time to us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you for your time.